even when I'm about to make a score, just harboring a little bit of resentment towards the busting up of the PGA Tour, where they're scrambling trying to find some identifiable commodity, one of whom would be Rory McIlroy. If they could get McIlroy, they get to a kind of semi-Tiger Woods kind of stature in terms of winning. It would certainly be a pleasant transformation for them than trying to sell Scotty Scheffler, who the only time he got anybody excited is when he got arrested. He was dragging that cop around like he was Randy Moss, which was a bullshit thing. I mean, when you really look at it, how does it? I understand that not everybody would recognize Scotty Scheffler, but you're a cop who's assigned to kind of monitor the traffic at the gate going into the golf course, and you're going to go ahead and give this guy a hard time and take him away in handcuffs? Get the fuck out of here. He's leaving the tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
He's 2 feet from the gate. You couldn't just wave him in?
The whole thing was
He's hanging onto the car door like he's surfing. That was ridiculous.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Morning, everybody. A little bit of a late start here. We were just wondering and pondering the chances here of the Panthers wrapping up the Stanley Cup on one of our other shows. It took us 20 minutes to figure out that we don't know if that's going to happen. Should we be wearing those replica Stanley Cup hats, or you have the Stanley Cup on your head? It's kind of like, do you remember that guy when we went to the Kentucky Derby? And there were a couple of people that were wearing a hat. Guys were wearing this mostly, not women. The women had very lovely, fashionable hats, like they just stolen the suitcase of Betsy Johnson. And a couple of the guys, though, had like a hat that had the entire Churchill Downs grandstand on their head.
Yep.
Should we be wearing those Stanley Cup hats? I'm not inclined to get into that kind of, I don't want to call it jerk-off behavior, but, because however enthusiastic you are, you should be every bit of that. This is a town where championships are hard to come by here, South Florida, even though we consider ourselves, the South Floridians consider themselves to be a reasonably good sports town, because we've often dubbed this the town of complete indifference, the town without pity when it comes to our sports teams. And yet, are we not guilty here in South Florida of just a premature evaluation when it comes to certain things? Because, I mean, the people think the Dolphins are going to win the championship this year. They haven't won one in 54 years. Is it 54 years? What would it be? 73? That's 27, 50, 51 years now.
51 years.
51 years. And yet we think they're a really good franchise, don't we? The Dolphins, they're the number one team here. Now, they have some personnel on the roster that would make you think that they're in there with a shot. Buffalo Bills may not be as good as they've been in the past. Certainly the Patriots are in complete decline and disarray from the 20-year dynasty that they had established. The Jets, what are they really going to be? I don't know. I mean, I have a tough time believing that the Jets are going to be championship material in spite of the comeback of Aaron Rodgers from the Achilles tear, because there's always something strange happening with that team, no? Like Rodgers being a no-show. Maybe they're making a big deal. Is it much ado about nothing, the no-show for the these were mandatory minicamp attendance days, and Rodgers has some cockamamie excuse that nobody has any idea what it is. What was he, driving with Danica Patrick or something?
I have no idea.
No idea, right?
The issue is that every other quarterback across the league was at theirs.
Yeah, you see Joe Burrow throwing a rock. He's got the bum shoulder. You see, everybody else is out there. A lot of optimism. Harbaugh's all excited about Justin Herbert. Tua is working, even though he's probably a little bit pissed off. No,
exactly. Every other guy's gotten a contract. Even guys
ridiculous contract. Yes,
even guys after him who haven't had really that much more success have gotten contracts. And he's there. And Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury that has changed people's careers at the age of 40, when there's supposedly all these expectations, even though the offensive lines aren't that much better, and he's not there. Like, yeah, it's normally I don't care about like veterans being at practice, but once you get to the word mandatory, those guys are there. I mean,
well, and there's a team unity issue. You would have to say.
He's a quarterback. I mean, the quarterback has to be there.
Leadership. Yes,
the quarterback has to be there. The quarterback is weird.
So it's 51 years with the Finns. 2013, last time the Heat won the title. The Heat, however, have been a representative franchise and seem to be the face of South Florida when it comes to well-run franchises. They may be falling short, but they've been to a couple of NBA finals, and they're always knocking on the door there. And maybe a player away, and you're assuming that they're going to make every effort to try and solve whatever
Yeah,
problems
they're gonna hover around.
that they incur. The Marlins, I don't know that they ever win another. It's hard to conceive. I know that this is one of those things where you're saying, is this going to last forever? I think it is going to last forever, the Marlins. And unless they would have to have an ownership change, I think a complete rebuild in the front office and a completely different approach, no?
Yeah.
Are they heading in that direction? This Bruce Sherman, he's disappeared now after last year. He became sort of a visible presence. He doesn't seem like a bad guy on the surface, Bruce Sherman.
The problem is that he's broke, and you can't own $1 billion franchise and be broke.
How is he broke, though? I mean, broke in relation to what?
Other owners, like
Yeah.
he, I'm sure, has houses and cars and a plane of some kind, but he can't compete with the other owners. He's broke.
Or is he unwilling to?
No, I mean, these other guys are billionaires and he's 100 millionaire. It's not the same world. The fact that he was allowed to buy this franchise, I'll never understand. He physically cannot compete financially with these other organizations. Remember,
Can he sell a piece to Serena or something?
That'll be fine with me. I'd rather him sell the whole thing. Like you can't have a guy. You can't have a guy who is like rich by normal people standards, but not rich by rich people standards. You just can't have that be your owner. The guy's a joke. I mean, he's just, and the fact that it just sucks because like you've seen in other sports, a guy like Mark Cuban come in and save a disastrous Dallas Mavericks. You've seen people with the Cubs when they were downtrodden, bring in an Epstein and spend money and retool. Like you've seen the Phillies do that where they were down and then came back. The Marlins never get that guy. They always get these owners that really shouldn't be owners, that can't afford to be owners, that they give. Lauria didn't even have the money to buy it. Like at least he bought this fucking team.
I love the fact that he was in federal court being sued by his former partners, and they all got a host. It's just some quirky scam favoring law here in South Florida. I guess it was federal. But and it was international also, and he ended up just robbing those guys. I mean, he pulled the rug right out from underneath them. His partners with the Expos, which was a failing franchise, and came down here, ended up owning a team, and then after hoodwinking some municipality, in this case Dade County, into building them a stadium, which I don't know. I mean, as we've often said, it's a nice ballpark, but is it the kind of attraction that makes you think? I was a huge baseball fan my entire life. I still like to follow it, but I can't say that I have the same emotional attachment to the game or interest level in the game that I used to, although I still enjoy it. And it was my sport as a kid growing up. Baseball was the sport, Lubie. Talked about this many, many times. It was America's pastime. But I would say I have almost no inclination, even with freebie tickets, to roll down to the ballpark. Now, when you get there, it's fine. But driving to that particular location, I mean, you talk about a bad choice. Although, I don't know. I mean, is the Panthers Merritt Bank Center now, as it's known, is that really all that convenient for people?
It's convenient for people who live out west.
I mean, you were a block away growing up.
Who live out east, live north and south. No, it's actually, you have to go super out of your way to get there like that. I mean, the Sawgrass is like a schminky highway.
Yeah.
And there's no real east to west highways if you live south or you live north. If you live central Broward, yeah, you can take 595. But other than that, it's great for us Broward people.
No mass transit to speak of here.
But it's just, it's not easiest to get to, but it's at least in a nicer area, I guess. That's the idea. Yeah. It's in a suburban. You have Sawgrass there. It didn't have to be built up. It was already built up. It's just fits.
You're not worriing about some guy taking a sledgehammer to your windshield.
The Marlins arena was a shit area, and it's still a shit area. And I don't say shit to me mean. My dad grew up not that far from there. Like I love that's real Miami, but it's not a place where people from all over South Florida dream to go and leave their car. Like
my car tended to gravitate as if driven by a magnetic force field into the parking lot of the Flagler dog track. Yeah.
Like if they really sold the place out, not everyone could fit in the garage. Like you have to find.
Oh no, the garage is a horror show.
You know, like so it's not like they have tons of good parking. The parking everywhere else is literally the no blocky parking where you're taking your car and sometimes yourself into your life in your own hands. Like it doesn't bring people. And again, it's a newer. It's not like Yankee Stadium or Fenway or the Cubs Wrigley.
No more devastating result than coming out thinking that you're in a no blocky situation, and it's blocky. You're behind some Winnebago that Pedro had decided you could make some money on, so he put him right behind your car. And those guys decided that they were going to stay at the stadium and party for a while, and he doesn't have the keys. Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, so therein, like, would you say? I mean, am I being outrageously cruel to speculate that? Certainly in my lifetime, I don't anticipate the Marlins ever being in the World Series again. And not based on what we're seeing right now. And there's little reason for hope there. I mean, nothing that you can hang your hat on. Are there any prospects that we're waiting to see? No. Every time they try to sell us somebody, they turn out to be dog meat. They've lost 6 in a row. They're the worst team in the National League. And only thankful that the White Sox are still in existence, because other than that, they would be the worst team in Major League Baseball, losing 6 in a row now, and having a record that has them on a pace to win like 54 games. So that's unlikely to happen. The Hurricanes, are they going to win a championship anytime soon? What do you think, Lubie? Some people believe that. I don't.
I think let's get them to 8 to 10 wins before we worry about fucking a championship. Let's
Peach Bowl victory, always quite a distinction to end the season.
Let's kneel on the ball before we worry about fucking championship. Look, that was the question, and it felt like we were just going to have to rely on the Heat. The Dolphins were a disaster. They at least now have a lot of talent. I don't know if they're
Finns have somewhat of a shot, but I don't think they're a championship team.
Like they have talent, and they have at least a competent quarterback. I know not everyone thinks he's what I think he is, but he's at least competent. He's not a disaster. He's the kind of guy that if everything went right, you could see winning a title. But again, there are people higher in the pecking order, so they're not a favorite right now, but they're not a disaster. And we've seen things break for teams when it comes to the NFL, especially when it comes to injuries. The Heat,
and they may not do it right, but at least they may not hit on every personnel decision. Certainly, Chris Greer, his career is coming to question. But I mean, at least they seem to be in there trying.
Yeah, they're trying. They're spending money. Yeah. They have actual talent. They have guys that look. Their big issue was health. If they were healthy last year, they were in that game with the Chiefs into the third quarter, and again, they were missing like half their team. And the Chiefs had almost their entire team. Like, health has been their big issue, and it continues to be an issue. If they're healthy, they have as good a roster as anyone in football. Their issue is health, because half their roster are guys that are always injured. But if things break right for them, they could find themselves there. The Heat were in the finals a year ago, and again, health was their issue. If they're not injured, they're as good as any team in the East. The way the East shook out, I mean, it was a fucking disaster. So the Heat are close, but again, the West has a lot of young teams that have a lot of talent. The Celtics, it feels like, aren't going anywhere. I mean, they're still young at their core. So the Bucks, you think, would make a return. The Sixers seem like they got the taste, so maybe they can make a move. Like, it's a little bit more open. The Panthers are really.
Did they announce the acquisition of Paul George like while he was sitting there with Joel Embiid on that halftime show?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't.
That constitute. I don't know that was tampering. But it certainly looked like an omen, and you would have to think that Paul George would be a heck of an asset for the Philadelphia 76ers. That would be
exactly what they need. I mean, that would be exactly what they need. So I don't know. Look, the Panthers are there, and they're one game away. And
it's tonight, Lubie. It's happening tonight. I believe
they're built to last. Like, they're a young. Like, they're going into this season, we would have thought their best player was Kachuk. He's like 27 or 28 or 26. Their second best player now, who many regard their best player because he's come around defensively and was already great offensively, Barkov. I think he's late 20s, maybe 29.
He's been around a while, though.
Been around a long time, and he's still young, though. He's not old. Like,
and he may be playing his best this year. That might have been his best season.
Like, he's just got. Because remember, he was sort of soft. He was sort of weak. He
was always injured.
He's been an integral part of every game. Like, he literally got fucking leveled in a way that should have taken out their second best player for fucking 2 games, and came back the next game and hit the game winner, or went on to be the game winner. Like, he's a whole different player. And they just have a young group, and they have veterans, and they have a front office that seems to get what they have and understand what they need.
Another brilliant acquisition, this Tarasenko.
He got the only goal in the
trade deadline.
Disaster.
I think he has 5 or 6 playoff goals now. But lately he's been lightening up after a little bit of a drought. But the kind of player that you have, coming over the boards on your fourth line. and making those kind of contributions. Certainly a well-balanced team, well put together, well conceived in terms of the personnel they have. And as you said, a great blend there. You have longtime veteran players that are actually still very young by
Yes.
any athletic standard. And yeah, well put together. I think they win it tonight. I really do. I think
As
it's
soon
going to
as
happen. And I don't know. Will we know how to react to having a Stanley Cup champion?
I'll be because look, it's not look. I am born and raised in South Florida, and as much as Brian is probably right about our fan base, the one team that we
Our fan base is
support.
very, very unusual. Yes,
The one team that has gotten constant support is the Miami Dolphins. They again are the one franchise that's been here for over 50 years, which is what I've always said is, yeah, we don't support. We haven't had teams, so it's hard to have a history of supporting teams when you don't have the team. So the Dolphins are the one team. Well, the Dolphins in my lifetime have never. I was 2 when they were in a Super Bowl. Like, that's the one team. If they can win, I think people will be apoplectic. I'm not going to lie to you. The Panthers are the team we don't really even support or pay attention to until they do this. I will admit it, but it's still a title. And for us in Broward, I don't care what the fuck the mayor and Dade's doing. You can go fuck yourself.
This Kava is making a lot of noise at the Dade County team.
They've been Broward for 30 years. They're Broward's fucking team.
They've been gone for 30 years. That's right.
If you go to a game, it's very minimal Miami. Sorry. It's Broward with a little bit of Palm Beach sprinkled in. They're Broward's fucking team. Miami loves to own everything. You don't own the fucking Panthers. The Panthers do win. It's Broward's first professional championship. I am born and raised in Broward County, one of the rare Broward County originals. Because again, Broward before, when I was growing up, Broward was still swampland. So like, there's not many of us. It will mean something different for people like me. Like we've always been in the shadow of Miami. Literally,
it's kind of cool. No, I mean, look, you got to love it. That stuff. How many times do we have that question? Hey, good to be on the show here. Who do you think is going to win the next championship in South Florida? I'll hang up and listen. Like, how the fuck do we know? Yeah, we got no idea. It was close. So this is happening. I mean, you have 3 swings at this. That's what I like. And I'm not concerned about the 8-1 bludgeoning. And we saw the complete reversal of form last night as the Celtics won their 18th championship. I would have to concede. You know what? I was sort of with you. I was rooting against the Celtics in every round of the postseason. I really was surprised that they were as good as they were during the regular season. They ended up 64-18, I want to say, in the regular season, and then ended up 80-21 for the year. You win 80% of your games. Now, look, you can say that they had a path of least resistance, and they certainly had some lucky and fortunate breaks with the teams that they faced in the postseason, where they went 16-3, and the two of the 3 games they lost anyway, you thought were completely suspect. And then the bludgeoning they took at the hands of the Mavericks in Game 4 of that series. And I'm not one that buys into the theory that the team deliberately lost the game so they could win at home.
No,
that would be the. What is our favorite sports mantra? And that is, don't get cute. Don't ever get cute.
It's perfect. Look, the execs can hope for one more payday fine, but players, you can't. Again, as we know, once you give any team a little hope, you never know. So you can't do that purposely. Look, both series are very similar in the sense that one team was playing for its fucking life. The other team had 4 chances. Like, giving a team 4 chances to close out is a lot. So
if they don't win the championship, then certainly they would have to look in the mirror and say, like we were talking about the other day, you're a fucking pussy. Hockey players could never think that, but nonetheless, I don't know. I mean, look, it's so arbitrary. It really is at different times. Shots hitting the post, clanking off the crossbar, and instead of going into the net, they end up in the corner somewhere, and the guy starts a breakaway the other way. A lot of weird stuff happens on the ice in hockey, but I think the Panthers will get back to their game tonight. I think they will wrap up the cup. We'll all be wrong about Panthers in 6. We will be right about the Panthers winning the series. And I think it happens tonight. And that's great because I was talking earlier on one of our other shows, our morning briefing on Caffeine TV and No Filter, Believe TV. It's on a bunch of things. Anyway, I do remember, I remember distinctly being very impressed. There was some anti-Huizinga sentiment at the time. He brings hockey in here. And I remember going to Burton Jack's Did you ever eat at Burton Jack's, or was it not around
I've
anymore
heard
by
of
the
it
time
from
you were?
you and Mayo. I've never actually.
Oh, very nice place. I mean, it was one of the distinguished places here in South Florida. Jack Jackson was a longtime restaurateur here, and of course, Burt Reynolds had a piece of the thing, so that added a little bit of pizzazz to the place. And great steakhouse, and I think seafood and steaks
But
just
is that
tremendous.
the guy that did Jackson's, right? Isn't
Jack Jackson was the guy, and he had Jackson Steakhouse after that, and a bunch of successful restaurants. But and it was quite a distinction to go there. And in fact, when I first signed my first real radio contract, which I was not happy with once I read the standard clauses and procedures. Oh, principles, standard clauses and principles. It's funny because the contract itself, defining your job outline and how much you're going to get paid, that was like a page and a half.
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah.
And then they would bring out the standard clauses and principles, and it was like 60 pages of literally agate type that you could never figure out. And basically, they could have summarized everything and just had you sign right underneath the two words, "I'm fucked." And Florida was particularly onerous when it came to employment. I guess it still is. I don't know. I mean, everybody was always screaming, "That's a right to work state." What does that mean? That you have the right not to work, basically. If somebody has gotten you to sign one of these onerous and hideous and heavily weighted in their favor contracts, which you were gladly going to sign because you saw the money on the one page and you figured this is my one shot to make it. But I remember the program director was a guy named Gary Bruce, and I've said this many, many times. You have to really worry about people in management in broadcasting, especially radio at the time, that had two first names. Right? I mean, Gary Bruce, that was a sheer Ken Charles, another guy was
a piece of
a
work.
better guy, but I mean, he was a tyrant as far as you went. He would have done anything he could have in his power to stymie your ability to be on the air, Libby.
Well, and his theories around radio have been
they're dead in the water. Yeah,
they were disproven at the time. Well, the funny thing, the thing that persists now is literally just talking to people.
Yes,
like, his idea of doing 2-minute interviews.
Oh my God!
It's funny. It's like TikTok, because anything that's a talk show, mostly podcasts now, is literally most of the time one person sitting with another person for like a fucking hour to 2 hours. The biggest thing is a guy who's a fucking moron, and Joe Rogan. If you ever listen to Rogan just talk, he's an idiot. But it's the biggest podcast around because he sits down with actually interesting people and just lets them talk for like
a couple hours.
2 to 3 hours. There's no time limit.
No.
Some of his podcasts are 2 hours. Some of them are 4 hours of just talking, which is 180 degree the opposite. It's an oxymoron from what Ken Charles thought good radio was.
Oh my God, he hated everything that we did. Thank God he was only there for like 3 days of our tenure.
Yeah.
That was good. Although they brought in a hatchet man in actually the presence of a woman right after that, and she despised what we were doing also. But can you imagine? I mean, the guy's concept was to do a 2-minute interview, and you're going to tell Pat Riley you finally got him after like 87 tries of calling Tim Donovan there, begging him. I mean, literally driving to the arena and grabbing the guy as he came out there on his way to his car and saying, "Please, Tim, get us Riley." And then you're going to tell him after 2 minutes, "Sorry, Pat, we got to go."
Come on, man.
Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
But I remember being there and being very impressed at Burton Jack's as they brought out Bill Torrey, who had orchestrated this tremendous run, 4 straight Stanley Cups by the New York Islanders, which was still, relatively fresh in people's minds.
Early 90s? Yeah, early 90s. It just sort of happened. It was with the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, it was relatively recent, so you thought, wow, I mean, we got a really sharp guy here. And he had to be pretty sharp because they stacked the deck against expansion teams in all sports then.
Even then, yep.
I don't know what hockey did to liberate the expansion teams from being awful, but after the fact,
they couldn't have a team in Vegas struggle. They're like, remember, all the sports were like, okay, we're counting on you, hockey, to make Vegas work so we all can go there. Like all the pro sports were working together on fucking that one. They're like, you better have Vegas. There can't be any impropriety. They have to look good. It has to be fun because we all want to be there. But if you fucking fuck this up, then we can't go there.
Yeah, you don't want a team that's at the bottom of the standings for the first 10 years. And
they contested for a title the first year.
First year. Well, I mean, Dale Talon had a lot to do with that also. Gave them virtually
exactly. They're 2 best players.
Everybody, right? Riley Smith and Marchessault, and you're thinking, well, wow, weren't those our two best players or among them? And of course, they were still selling us then, well, these young guys, Hooby Dooby Dooby and Barkov, are going to come around. Barkov distinguished himself. Huberdeau, they swap out for Kachuk, some brilliant moves. Well, we're going to get into this in greater detail, and the reason we're kind of schlubbering here is that we're going to be on the air past 9 o'clock here today. As Craig Minervini, not inclined to get up real early in the morning.
Well, he had the Marlins.
Was he with the Marlins last night? Oh my God, they went like 35 innings.
Yeah, he says he works late, and I'm like, I'm aware.
Okay, well, he couldn't have got home. He may be a scratch at 9 o'clock. It wouldn't be surprising if you were calling in futility as, "Hey, Minnie, you there? Come on, man! You said you were coming on the show." So we'll try to get some more insight into this. But I'm thinking tonight's the night, Louie. I really am.
Look, you're
I'm not overwhelmingly confident. It wouldn't shock me if Edmonton won the game, but nonetheless, I think they do it tonight. And if they don't, then everybody's sitting on the Panthers in 6. And we'll just have to wait until they schlep across the world again and play Game 6 in Edmonton. But a lot will depend, too, your opinion on how the series, if it doesn't end tonight, you would have to see how this game was contested. But I'm thinking it's going to be close throughout the early stages, and then maybe the Panthers find a way to pull this thing out in the third period. 4-2, is that a safe prediction with an empty netter being the fourth goal?
I could see 3-2, and then maybe they get an empty netter to get
empty netter. Yeah, you're always praying for that empty netter if you have over 5.5. That's what the nature of sports is today. Just schwitzing profusely as you're waiting for an empty netter to occur to complete your 6-component parlay, including that Barkov would have the first goal, that Connor McDavid would not score in the game, that the first period would be won by the Panthers, that the Panthers would win more faceoffs. I mean, you can bet virtually anything. That's the beauty of it right now. But I'm betting on the Panthers to finish it off tonight, I think. And at minus 135, that doesn't seem like it's overwhelmingly prohibitive. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment. Craig Minervini going to join us about 9 o'clock today, we hope. And I don't know. Is he going to pull a McElroy after that loss to the Cardinals yesterday? No, he's used to it, right?
No,
6 in a row. Team is wow. Can you imagine the record for the Marlins right now? 23-49. 23-49.
That's
a 54 win season on tap here. How great is that? When do they pay us off? As soon as it's a mathematical elimination, I think.
Yeah, well, they're so behind that they can have mathematical elimination in September, August.
Yeah. So what is that? That's 72 games so far.
Yeah, they're still 90.
They've won 20. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's nuts. We've seen bad teams. It's hard to remember a team that bad. Look, you have the White Sox this year being that bad, but outside of that, teams are bad, but Jesus.
This is right there with the 62 Mets. It really is. I mean, just an horrendous team, although they're not doing it with aging and over-the-hill veterans. They're doing it with a bunch of guys that you look at and you're asking yourself, would anybody want any of these players? Right? I mean, catcher, usually, at some point in time, they had Real Muto, but they haven't. Since then, they've had a bunch of guys that were below the Mendoza line like year after year after year.
100%.
This is a power hitting position, my friend.
Not for them.
Come on. I mean, you can't find one guy in the entire universe. You can't go down to some ball field, some sandlot in Mexico and find somebody who can, sit behind a plate and maybe get 260 for you? No. Huh? Who's on the Marlins scouting staff? Do they even have scouts? What do you think? I remember when they were, had the old legendary guys, one of which was Bertie Tebbetts, who must have checked out like 30 years ago. But can we name, is there a director of scouting with the Marlins? Did they have
one? I could name it, and I don't even want to know who it is.
What do they sleep through the games? It's incredible. We're going to come back with more. Craig Minervini going to join us about 9 o'clock, and we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
I'm optimistic, though. It's 8:42. Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Las Vegas, Nevada, where Saturday night this man will challenge Deontay Wilder for the heavyweight championship of the world. We present the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. From the looks of things, new trainer, new methods. It does look like you're in the best shape of your life. Why the changes, especially since you looked so good against Deontay Wilder the first time?
You know, I've come a different approach to this fight this time. Last time we didn't get the decision we was looking for, ended up a draw. So this time we've changed things up a bit. We're going to switch the gears and we're going to knock him out this time to make sure we get the right decision this time. So I had the trainer last time. He was good. He didn't do anything wrong. We just needed a bit of more offense. So we brought in a more attacking trainer this time rather than defensive. So yeah, it should be a different fight completely.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. That was great. I still remember that day when we finally copped the interview with Tyson Fury. We were one of, I think, my friend Brad Jacobs, who helped me out with that. I mean, he basically made it happen. He's the CEO of Top Rank Boxing, was a local promoter here for many, many years. Went into the Boxing Hall of Fame, I think, last year, Brad Jacobs. The International Boxing Hall of Fame. He was the guy that produced the USA Tuesday Night Fights. He's been a guest on our show a few times. Great guy. Really helped me out with a bunch of announcing gigs. I was always a fan of the Def and what I was doing on play-by-play. Had me calling a couple of Roy Jones fights that he was promoting, all kinds of different stuff. But he sets us up an interview. And remember, I mean, it was fun when you used to have to hustle to do things in this racket. I went largely unappreciated by the stone-faced management because they didn't ever want to acknowledge that you were doing something good, Lubie, which is kind of crazy. But we get this somewhat exclusive interview with Tyson Fury before he's about to fight the rematch with Deontay Wilder. And Fury was going to be calling us, if he did, from London sometime in the afternoon, like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. And it turned out I was on one of my senior junkets to Atlantic City, and I barely had checked into the room. This was when the people at Harrah's in Atlantic City made the brilliant decision to say, hey, you know what? Well, we didn't feel like the promotion was really of any great value to us, that we were on the air live and promoting Harrah's Atlantic City in South Florida. I mean, what do people do here? They schlep somewhere to gamble, and they don't want to go all the way to Las Vegas. So they go to the poor man's Las Vegas, Atlantic City. They get their gambling function in, and then boom, they're right back here, and it's only a 2-hour flight. If you lose, it's not as repulsive to think about the trip that you had, and if you win, you're happy, and you're right back home to spend the money. It's great. So I barely get checked into the room about 3 o'clock, and sure enough, that was the time of the interview. And instead, Harrah's had said, hey, look, we're not going to provide you with a location where you can do the show. So I don't even know if this is going to work, Lubie. And I ended up, taping that thing. But I was amazed when we actually saw the fight, because you're thinking, okay, I mean, that's a typical heavyweight approach, right? I'm just going to gain a lot of weight and lean on the guy. And sure enough, he everything that he said in that particular clip, he executed.
Yeah, he did.
And ended up winning in convincing fashion in the rematch against Deontay Wilder, who is still getting knocked out by chumps. I think it's time. I would imagine this last loss that he suffered, I'm not even sure. It might have been to Butterbean Ash. I'm not sure what lower level he has sunk to in terms of opposition. And he was kind of fun for a while, although so awkward, so lacking in fundamentals that
Yeah,
even though he had this giant roundhouse right that would knock
yeah.
the guy out, he at least brought some entertainment after the Klitschko's had flattened the line of heavyweight bouts on an excitement level. So and Tyson Fury was a surprise, wasn't he? I mean, he doesn't look like he could hang in there. I mean, kind of an awkward looking guy. Doesn't look like he's in tremendous shape, and he turned out to be very effective. Although now he's just cashing in on his name.
Yeah, why not?
You can't blame him. So, but that was good. I mean, back in the days, you used to have to really hustle, and we put that together, and it turned out. I remember watching it transpire. I'm like, hey, that's just what he fucking said on the show.
Yep.
So we're going to try and determine. I don't know. I mean, is there anything that isn't somewhat obvious about what has to happen tonight for the Stanley Cup to come to South Florida?
Well, they have to be aggressive defensively, and they have to be smart with the puck. I mean, like Ken actually said it Friday. The difference is Edmonton defense was giving up a lot of bad turnovers and not in position to handle them. And the Panthers, outside of that third period in Game 3, hadn't really been doing that until Game 4. That's what Game 4 was, over and over and over again. A bad turnover. They didn't get back, allowed an odd man rush, and Bobrovsky wasn't to the task. Then in offensive possessions, they weren't getting rid of the puck. Everyone gets shots, but what they've been good at doing is getting rid of it and not allowing Bobrovsky to face multiple shot opportunities from the Edmonton Oilers. That's not what happened Saturday. It's that. Go back to that. Go back to playing the way, Edmonton's going to play desperate. You have to play desperate too. You're desperate now, right? You got hit in the fucking mouth. Yes, every game only counts as one, but if any game can feel like it's more than one, 8-1 is that fucking game. You saw from the Celtics last night. Yeah, the Mavs hung around early, and the Celtics, you talk about laying on them, the Celtics just stayed there, and they stayed there, and they stayed there, and that's what the Panthers have to do. They have to be in front of them. Don't let McDavid, let him dipsy do, and then punch him in the fucking mouth. Like, you can't let Draisaitl and McDavid possess the puck. And they did it. They were great at that for 3 fucking games. Even that third period, it wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl. It was the Panthers just getting lackadaisical for 2 plays. Other than that, the Panthers were dominant in that Game 3. Like, you have to do that again. You did it for 3 games. I don't give a shit what Subban says or the Oilers fans have told themselves. You're the better team. Everyone in the world, including them, their coach, after they played a better game but lost 3-0, looked defeated in Game 1. And then the next 2 games showed why he was defeated. Go back to that, okay? Play aggressive and smart. There's a difference between just being aggressive with reckless abandon and being aggressive and smart. Game 4, it's not like they rested on their laurels. They were overly aggressive to the point where they let them leak out. You can't. And Reno talked about that when we had him on last week. He said that's what they did differently from Game 1 on, was they stopped letting them get opportunities. You can't. This team will kill you with that. You can't do that. So I'm presuming they've had enough time. They got home. They were able to be home. Travel won't be an issue from that game to this game.
That has to be a huge advantage coming home for this game.
Well, and they had the extra day, and they didn't have rain or anything, delay any fucking flight, so they could
You're back in your environment here. Other people around the league. I remember, there was a time where it was thought that people didn't want to play in South Florida, NHL players. Did they not care about the sunshine? And I think this is a very attractive destination. I mean, that's the other thing that happens. This bullshit about, they lost on purpose so they could come home. It is just, and it wouldn't be about money either, even though it becomes more money for the franchise, clearly, and the networks get to run more advertising and whatever, and try to offset the enormous amount of rights fees that they've had to shell out. So sure, yeah. I mean, is there a reason that more games would be beneficial to a lot of people? Yes, that's true. But the distinction that you get by being a champion here, I mean, think what it does for the franchise as compared to, should they fail in this spot, it would really be catastrophic. Although you're assuming that they actually, and this is rare to say about a South Florida team, that they somehow have figured out the whole front office coaching dynamic. And they actually have, outside of Riley and Spoelstra, could there be any, better of a dynamic when it comes to coach and general manager? And you hear these guys talk about the mutual respect they have for each other. And you sense, especially in hockey, that it's sincere, that this isn't just some bullshit that they're spewing out there to keep everybody pacified and keep any negativity out of the press. So, yeah, I mean, the distinction of winning the championship certainly supersedes any desire to cash in one more time, although I'm sure Vinny Viola will take the money, no? He'll be able to buy another racehorse. I mean, amazing to me. I mean, surprising, too. They really sold out this arena charging $200 a ticket, or is that a bit of a bluff?
Oh, no,
Because the people that
$10.
actually went to the game were the guys that, or to the non-game, but to watch it, what were the ones that paid the $10? Would you have scalped those tickets?
Oh,
Lubie?
yeah.
Imagine scalping tickets to an event that isn't even taking place.
Oh, for
How
sure.
Stephen Wright-esque is that?
If you can make $200 on something that's 10, and then they ended up losing 8. That was my problem. Is I had a weird feeling about Game 4. Like
I wouldn't have wanted to be in the arena, down 5-1 in the
Yeah.
second period.
I mean, I would have left after one period, so it would have been a total waste of fucking time. Like,
Yeah.
I do believe it though. People are up. Look, I mean, it's the first time in a long time. It's not like 96 per se, but I'm seeing people with flags on cars. People around my neighborhood have the flags in front of their house. I'm seeing people wear Panther shirts. Again, I nodded to a couple people and they're like, let's get it done. And I was like, yep. Of course they didn't, but like there is a vibe. It's not what you hear in other cities, fine, but there's more than you usually get.
Well, there are less people here. Half of our population leaves town
Yes,
around this time of
right.
year.
This time of the year, exactly. So it's not as hectic. But look,
Other areas like New York or Boston, I mean, they're coming out. It's springtime. The sun is shining finally,
This
so they
is
get
their
their 2
season.
months of
yeah,
summer.
this is their season. Yeah.
They're eating lobster, and having a great time. And so it's a perfect time to celebrate. Whereas here, town is a ghost town at this point.
Yes, it slows down this time of year. I don't know. Look, it feels a little different. It feels like people are in. So yeah, I could 100% believe people went and watched because people thought that they were going to be coronated, and that is not what happened. It seems to be the sentiment again. I'm actually seeing more people believing today's the day. We'll see. Hockey's a weird fucking sport. I lean that they'll do it just because you don't want to get to being up 3-0. You don't want to go to game 6. Game 5 happens. They call it a gentleman's sweep for a reason. It has a name for a reason. Game 6 is a game you don't want to go to, and you definitely don't want to get to a game 7. Like you just don't.
This
So
is always my theory. I never felt like I was going to end up losing until the final result was posted.
yeah.
It didn't matter how compromising the position. You're playing a best of 7 series. You're down 3 games to nothing. Maybe you're playing 3-on-3 basketball to 11. You're down 10-0 in game 4, and I'm still thinking, well, let's see. Let's make a shot here, and we'll chip away at this thing. It's unrealistic, but as they say, I mean, the cliche actually does apply there. You can only go one step at a time. Craig Minervini is scheduled to join us shortly. And I know he's coming off, what was that? Another nightmarish effort there by your Miami Marlins. For us, it was just pure pleasure to see them end up on the losing side of this game against the Cardinals. Now 6 in a row that they've lost. But Minnie, if he was working a post-game show on that had to end, I would think, fairly late. So somewhat suspect. You want to take a quick break? I'll try and grab Craig Minervini. Okay, we'll do that. And we will be back with more. And now Craig should have tremendous insight into what's happening here. And do we make no mention? We would have to not waste his time by talking about the Marlins, wouldn't we?
I would focus on the Panthers, but we can touch on the Marlins and just
one question on the Marlins. How would you handle this?
It's
Lubie?
fine,
At the
no.
end, hey, what about your Marlins, Minnie?
I know
He does a great job, by the way. I love Craig Minervini, and he does the play-by-play. When he does it, it's great.
he's great. We love Minnie.
Craig Minervini and Tommy Hutton, dynamite team. Man. Taking nothing away from the guy that calls the games on a regular basis. Why are you laughing, Lubie?
And he's saying 3-1 that Mini Man shows up. He's taking odds.
I'm not loving the odds here. I would say it's like minus 165. No.
No, yeah, I would say the favorite is no.
Favorite, heavily favorite. No. Minus 165. You lay 165 to win 100 if Minnie's on the show. Sheldon G, our good friend Sheldon G, had put a proposition up on social media, specifically Facebook, theorizing that Donald Trump will find some excuse so as not to show up for the debate with Joe Biden. Are you buying that? He loves this, doesn't he?
No, he hates debating. He sucks at debating. And they have hardcore rules.
They can mute the microphone. So does he pull some last-minute stunt? Are you buying that, really?
What was funny is all the
Republicans would love to fuck over CNN also, who was counting on this to sustain
all the Republicans. Joe Biden doesn't want to debate. He's like, what are you talking about? You can make fun of Joe Biden for these moments of just standing there fine. Joe Biden knows how to speak on a topic and stay to the topic.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has never, ever, ever done that. Donald Trump 20 years ago, 30 years ago was meandering all over the fucking place.
His ramblings have become even more
He's way worse.
far-fetched and maniacal. Yes.
Like Joe Biden, at least in the debates, will talk about a topic, say it and get off. Like Donald Trump doesn't debate. He just does political ad hominem attacks and then goes off into like,
and makes up a bunch of shit also. I mean,
and he's never honest. He just lies. And they actually openly, it's a debate. So they fact checked him right there. Like where Biden, you don't fact check Biden. He knows what the fuck he's saying. Like he doesn't like debating. He doesn't want to debate. And he's definitely not going to do a one-on-one debate.
So you would be inclined to think, I mean, I would think you would have to get a price on that, no?
I don't see him debating.
Is that a 2-to-1 proposition? I mean, to just stiff after all these big announcements, and now you want to tangle with Biden and, show how superior you are? You wouldn't show up for the debate? Come up with some lame excuse at the last minute?
What do you mean? His excuses work for everything. He is the only guy that can commit a crime, 34-time convicted, and his believers.
Oh, they love him even more, man. It's Manson-esque.
Well, gas is this, so why would I care about felonies? I'm like, what the fuck does the price of gas have to do with him being a 34-time convicted felon? Like, who gives a shit? Gas was expensive too with him before COVID.
It's mind-boggling. It really is, the whole thing. Right. All right, we're going to come back, hopefully, with Craig Minervini. 3-1 is the official post-time odds here, as posted by Andy. He's willing to book all the action. Should we give away to contact Andy if you want to take bets on Minervini's upcoming appearance here on the Defo Show with one Mike Lubie Lubitz? Hopefully that'll be happening in a moment. Now that. Otherwise, we just to get to come back and say goodbye. It's 9 o'clock.
Here, let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Well, are we paying off?
9:05 is when he's supposed to come out. So we'll do 5 minutes. If he comes, he comes. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got a note here from the Polyman. I don't think he would mind if I read it. He says, we were talking a little bit about the ineptitude of radio management.
Yeah.
How we got on that topic, I don't know. No, and it was always interesting. You know,
well, we were talking about the ineptitude of the Marlins, and it reminded you of the ineptitude of radio.
Oh, and how much bullshit went on between us and management with the Marlins, who we blew an asshole. I mean, you talk about definitely shilled for that team as compared to what really should have. It wasn't like we were lying or anything.
What you did was put wagers.
But we were trying to be positive.
Yeah, you put wagers on in their favor. Even
Yes.
seemed dumb. So it gave you the reason to talk about them without being total shill.
It was a brilliant campaign to keep the Marlins alive, which was a franchise that was on the station. That was the last franchise that was still on the station, 940 that we were on. And you know, they kept giving us shit all the time, right? Remember when we had the Jeter interview? I mean, the program director came storming in there saying, "Why is he talking about the Yankees?"
Like,
because that's how people know the man, okay?
Yeah, how wouldn't he? He had just gotten there. He hadn't done anything. You definitely know what I'm talking about, the Marlins now.
Well, of course we were going to get to it. But people, you want to familiarize the audience with your guest a little bit and kind of ease them into the conversation. So, and who really wants to hear a bunch of flowery bullshit? I mean, we didn't know, what Jeter was going to say. Wouldn't it have been, it would have been really, really satisfying and gratifying to hear somebody just tell you the truth. He says, you know what? We're fucking up against a brick wall here. That's like those phony press conferences we always talk about, especially the college football coaches on the letter of intent day when that was a big thing. And they would say, whoa, we got every guy that we were looking for. I tell you what, we're going to be a monster next year.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the guy's thinking to himself, these motherfuckers. They literally, they couldn't sign a cripple kid to a scholarship here. And there I go. I'm Trumpy and mocking cripple. No, I didn't mean that to sound cruel in any way. Anyway, but we got relentless shit from management like that we were doing something that we shouldn't have been because we weren't claiming that the Marlins were going to win the World Series, even though I would have to say that we were doing a rather, enhanced blowjob on the Marlins for the most part by not insulting them at every turn, right? And in general, when you have guests on, you're not inclined to go out. I mean, there was something to be said at one point for kind of attack radio. And communication. I don't know. Would that be popular today? Yeah, of course, because everybody's screaming the whole time.
Yeah.
But they're not really screaming. They're screaming at each other, but they're screaming about absolutely nothing. As evidenced by, and these shows are immensely popular. Are they popular just because there are no other shows, Lubie?
Oh, yeah. Look, I don't think they're as popular.
Stephen A. Smith type of show where two guys are just screaming at each other?
It's not as popular as it was. As we know, ESPN, who's made that their major form of content, is losing more and more money every quarter. So I don't think they're as popular as they were in the early 2000s. I think they rested on that stupid ass form of entertainment. And I think it's sort of the death of them because who wants to just hear yelling all the fucking time?
I mean, what are they yelling about? Who's screaming at each other about this stuff? It's crazy. So Polyman says, isn't it ironic that the show that replaced your time slot may be the worst sports radio talk show of all fucking time?
Look, whatever it is, but the fact that they never get any national.
Who's ever heard it? I mean, I wouldn't even know it was still on the air. I don't know who the other two guys are besides Brady Quinn.
It's Quinn. It was LeVar Arrington and some other guy. I don't know.
And what do they do? I don't know. And Polyman goes on to say the Gottlieb guy, and he's right on the money with this, could bore you to death. You say he's getting out of it, huh? All right. The goofy overnight guy, Ben Maller, is not for me. Most of them, plus the weekend subs, are unlistenable. The woman that's with Maller isn't bad. The corny old guy, Jody Mack, who we've had contact with, is okay. I would agree with that. And I can listen to the so-called odd couple, the two brothers, Rob Parker and Chris Broussard. They get after it a little bit, if you're going to do that type of talk show. All right, Craig, he's here? Oh, my God. Way to go, man. I mean, Andy was booking action, and he was we had 3-1 in some sports books that you would make it onto the show. 3-1. You had to lay, $3 to win $1, Craig. How are you, my friend? It was a late night last night, huh?
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, you sound fine. Can you hear us?
Good.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful.
It was a late night. Very unusual night. 12 innings doesn't happen in baseball very often anymore. But, yeah, good to be with you guys.
Well, it's great. And, of course, I think tonight's the night. I don't want to jinx it. But I believe that this will be shrugged off, this 8-1 bludgeoning at the hands of the Edmonton Oilers in Game 4. The schlep back across the country, I think, is highly favorable at this point for the Florida Panthers. And they are a resilient bunch, Craig. You know them as well as anybody. So what are your thoughts, about where they're at in the series and what happens tonight?
I agree 100%. I think tonight is the night. I think it's a good thing, actually, they lost the other night. I think it's good for hockey. It's good for the Edmonton Oilers. They got a little excitement. They deserve it. They got a great crowd, great season. I think it's great for South Florida that they get a chance to watch this potentially at home here tonight, as opposed to a quiet building. There's nobody in Edmonton rooting for the Panthers. It's better for television, too, if the home team wins in Game 5. So, it's not a guarantee. I don't know what your 3-1 odds are, but the odds in Vegas are not going to be 3-1 here.
Panthers favored. You have to lay 135 to win 100.
135. So it's a little, So
not overwhelming, but
it's a good number. It's a good number. I like him. I like him tonight. Hey, look, we've waited forever. You guys probably don't know this. I was at the original draft in Quebec City in 1993.
Yes.
With my friend, the great late Rich Tucker, who I think you knew, great photographer in town, sports photographer. We went there. We got a gig. I called all the Miami stations. I said, Rich, we got to get here. And I think we got $300 from all the local stations in Miami to give them the feed. And then we worked out a little side deal with MSG and did something for the Rangers. So we made a couple of bucks and we were able to be at that draft. And it's been a long time. So tonight,
very innovative business acumen there, Craig.
Yeah, it was
very impressive. This is years ago, 30-something years ago.
It was Defo-like.
I was going to say very Defo.
Yes.
Find a way to get to the Super Bowl and do it on somebody else's dime, and maybe even make a few bucks, which Lubie and I never mastered that part. But Lubie's all excited. I mean, he didn't think Bobrovsky was playing well enough at some point during the postseason to carry the team to a title. And yet he's distinguished himself. I think he's going to be named in spite of the 8 goals. He gave up 5. He got lifted. But I think if they win tonight, in a relatively low-scoring game especially, that he's probably the MVP. But what do you think, Lubie? I mean, I know you wanted to lay one on Craig.
Look, it's funny. Until it got to 8, I sort of – I don't want to say expected because it felt like they had the momentum. And what's good about this team is they don't just give games away. So I could have seen them sweeping. I just wasn't counting on it. Again, like you said, Edmonton, a rabid hockey area. The country, hockey's in its blood, and they haven't had a championship in over 30 years right now. So I figured they would bring it. And again, sometimes you need to be put in your place. Fine. I sort of agree on all that. But what do you attribute losing 8-1? Because that's my problem. It's not that they lost 4-1, 5-2. It happens. That's a blowout in hockey, but you're there.
Yeah.
They were. It was 2-1 for like 10 seconds, and then they allowed 2 goals in the next like 5 minutes. Like, you've been around this team. You've been around the sport. Look, we know this group is really good at just moving on. Within a game, like Barkov got fucking leveled, and they won that game. They won that game convincingly.
Yeah.
Like, what do you attribute that to, and how do you think they are able to just throw it away?
Well, my first thought is, don't worry about it. You're up 3-1. What's the matter with you? Mariano Vera used to say, look, if I blow the game, I go in the shower and it's going down the drain. And I think the Panthers will do that. It's great for the Edmonton Oilers. You're right. They blew them out of the building. I actually thought when it was 3-1, the Panthers were still in the game. I thought it was one of these wild open games. It was the end of the first period. I'm like, they get the next goal. They're right back. In fact, when they made 2-1, it was like, ooh, here we go. I thought they were going to win the game. Then 3-1, okay. And then once you got to 4-1, I'm like, pull Bob. I heard some guy on a national radio show going crazy that Bob was benched. And he can't be the Conn Smythe way he's benched.
He wasn't benched.
The guy's a moron. He wasn't benched. He was taken out to give him a little break, a breather, and it was good for Stolarz. Bob gets hurt. Stolarz got a little experience in the Stanley Cup final, and it was good for him to get in there too. He deserved it after his season. But I'm not worried about it. I understand. The one thing I would say to this, Lubie, is that Edmonton gets a little more confidence putting 8 on the board. But it's still one game, and it really doesn't matter. It's one of those games that just got out of hand. And then again, hockey's a grind sport. I think you guys would agree that you're probably not battling for every loose puck. When it's 5-1, you're not killing yourself over every little scenario in the game because it's not the end of the world. It's 3-1 no matter what the score is. Not that you're giving up, but you don't want to get anybody hurt. You can't play at 80%, but you probably do in some way or another. Maybe not blocking that shot from the point that you were laying out for in every other game in the playoffs. So I'm not as worried about it. I do think it's a bigger boost for Edmonton to score the 8 than it is for the Panthers to give up the 8.
Well, and they had won 6 in a row in the postseason against the President's Trophy team, the Rangers, and then against Edmonton, a team that had emerged from the Western Conference, which was also featuring some very talented, high-scoring teams. So you got to figure that somewhere along the line you're going to slip up. I don't mind the lopsided score either. Let's talk about this guy because, he's quickly arisen to the point where you would have to say, Pat Riley's always going to be my number one sports executive down here.
Yeah.
But is Bill Zito, this guy has been sensational, including I mean, look, this Rodriguez came from what? The Avalanche last year. He picks
Yep.
him up.
Yep.
And then at the trade deadline, he gets this Tarasenko, who all of a
Mhm.
sudden has become just a real foundational piece for this team.
Piece, Tarasenko was big. Remember, they picked up Giroux a couple of years ago, but it was
Yes.
costly. Very
Yeah.
costly pickups. They went for it then. They gave up some draft picks. And fortunately, last year it kind of paid off because they were able to get through. But for a while, it looked like maybe, they didn't go anywhere that President's Trophy season really. And then I've been paying the price a little bit. But hey, you go for it when you got a great team. Yeah, Zito's been amazing. I thought you were going to say Paul Maurice when you were leading in with Riley.
Well, and the dynamic there may be. I mean, we were talking about it
Yeah.
earlier. It's probably as good a coach, GM slash guy who's running the team dynamic
Right.
as the Heat have with Riley and Spoelstra.
Well, but remember, obviously Riley was the great coach. You
Yeah.
sat on every word in the whenever the mic gets in front of Riley, I can't miss it. I got to listen to it.
Yes.
And Maurice reminds me of
Yes,
that.
he's like that.
He's can't miss.
He's great.
You have to.
Yeah.
He's great for hockey here because I always think of the local news anchors. They know who he is, and you're waiting for him. What is he going to say today? The people that maybe aren't into hockey as much. He connects. I think the Panthers guys have done a great job at connecting with South Florida. Again, the players, they're identifiable. The coach, they had it in the mid-'90s. Those of us who here will remember that. It was a short little run, but they connected right off the bat. And it's not easy to do that, especially in a sport like hockey. It's so foreign to so many people. And they connected again. And it's great to see that the hockey players have done that thanks to this. And we could, we're on the verge of one of the greatest nights in Florida sports history tonight, right here.
Now, will you be doing any broadcasting around this? Any kind of streaming? I see Goldie's wearing tuxedos, and we haven't seen Red Deer Randy Mully. He won't return our calls. Will you be involved in anything?
I will be doing broadcasting. I'll be hosting the Marlins Cardinals game tonight.
Oh, yeah, okay. By the way, great job on the play-by-play, Craig. I applaud you. I knew you would be brilliant at it. We've heard you before, and it was absolutely fantastic. You and
Thanks.
Tommy Hutton, a dynamic team. That even watching. Well, we're watching Marlins baseball from the perspective. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily
must have
flattering
the
for the
under.
club.
What do
The
you
under,
have?
yeah. We mashed this before the season started.
Did you collect already?
79.
Did you collect
I
already?
get a call from Lipschitz every day saying, "Hey, look, I'll give you 40% of it right now." I'm like, "What are you talking about, Lip? How generous is that? I mean, I'd rather negotiate with Putin than you."
They may have worried you in May, though. You got a little scared.
Yeah, he did. He actually 2 weeks ago he was.
14 and 13 in May.
It seemed insurmountable, though, and I'm also
it's
expecting
tough.
further sale, and departure of any player that has any ability.
It would be natural and probably smart if you're a seller, and maybe the price can be high. All these teams are, in the wild card race. But that aside, I am going to go over to the game hopefully after the Marlins game tonight and get in there and.
Did you get a
enjoy
ring
some time.
now as part of the broadcast team?
I don't know. Not my decision. But
Have
I
you
certainly
asked? Have
hope
you
so.
made any inquiries about this?
I have not made any inquiries. That would be premature.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't be first on the list, but I hope as one of the team broadcasters that I do get one if they win.
Now, what happened with the tickets for the last game? Where'd they end up? Mayo was making some inquiry, and then you quoted him a price, and I think he hung up the phone.
No, actually, I thought my daughter was going to go to the game, and
Yeah.
I was really just trying to get even, which isn't easy to do on these.
Yes.
It really isn't because the prices are ridiculous. So let's put it this way: I haven't made my money back.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And do
That's
you have
okay. I'm not
you have a couple tonight? I mean, anything
No,
available?
my son is going to the game tonight, so I do not have any.
Oh, nice.
Tonight, but he flew in from New York.
Oh, nice.
And he's going to go to the game tonight. I think my brother's going to go with him. I'm not sure yet, but yeah. So.
Were you at that thing, Craig, at Burton Jack's when they had Bill Torrey and
Yes.
they introduced Bobby
Yes,
Clark?
I was. Yes, I
Zinga
was.
was there.
Yep, they debuted the.
Did they
was it
serve
the
stone
Jersey-
crabs that night? We were trying to figure that out earlier. I know it was a very, very eloquently.
I remember the pigs in the blanket were outstanding.
Yeah.
They were very. I don't remember if it was stone crabs, but it was a great night. I remember that backdrop and.
Yeah.
Did they reveal the logo that night? Was that?
Yeah, they had something going on. They had, of course, ice carvings and all kinds of stuff, even though it was
I think
1,000
they were-
degrees
yes,
out.
And I also remember. I remember the Marlins. Was the Marlins there as well?
That I don't remember. No.
The Marlins, because I remember Wayne going, the Marlin is an adversary, in the sea. And I also remember the night you probably at the Miami Arena when they debuted the look of the jersey, and the guys came out with the Cooper hockey gloves and they had claws on the knuckles, which they never wound up using.
Wow.
But it had like a claw. It looked ridiculous.
This is great. I mean, you have some history with this franchise. So I mean, what's your emotional, outlook on this thing? I mean, you've been since the inception of the team involved in some way?
Yes. Because when I moved down here, I covered. I was a big hockey guy. Like I think you guys.
Yeah.
Were,
well, you play, you referee. Your son's a player.
I actually ref the other night, first time on the ice. So I grew up. My dad was a crazy fan of believe it or not, the New York Americans. That's how far back he went, which predated the Rangers.
Jeez.
As a 5-6-year-old, we had an accountant or something in the family who happened to work for this hockey team, and that's why my young dad at the time got into the Rangers and Americans first, and then the Rangers in the 1920s. Wow. So, and my brother played in the minors, so it's always been a family sport. It's still different, I think, than I don't know about you guys. It's different for me when I was a kid than, being a professional. It's not the same exactly. It's not the same as it was when I was a kid, for whatever, maybe because you're closer to it. Your life kind of lived and died with it then. I wouldn't say that now, but it's why you follow sports. It's the excitement of it. It's the thrill of it. So yeah, it's going to be neat. But I remember when the Rangers lost in '79 to the Montreal Canadiens. They won the first game. They were up 2-0 at the Forum in game 2. I'm like, I got to win the cup. And then I went to game 3 at the Garden. Billy Joel did the national anthem. Rod Stewart, do you think I'm sexy when they're skating around the ice? And they lost 4 games to 1.
Did they dig up Shula from the grave to beat the drum tonight? I mean, to what extent will Vinny Viola go?
Who is going to beat the drum tonight?
That's a good question.
Yeah, maybe he has one of his racehorses do it. I mean, that would be kind of unique.
Well, who would be on your list? Dan Marino, a guy like that.
It has to be Marino, doesn't it?
Would be on your list.
Yes,
Maybe
I don't care what they have to pay him.
Dwayne Wade.
Marino has been further. It might be Marino.
You already had Zoe, so I would go in the Marino direction.
So maybe you're not going to Heat direction.
Or do you save Marino for a game 7? You can't do that. I mean, holy Kate Smith.
Mark Higgs, maybe from the Larry Zonka. I don't know. Kim Boke.
Crash Jensen would be perfect because then he could also play, which would be good. All right. Well, it should be a very entertaining night. Now, how will you be able? Will you be able to follow everything? Are you going to be like?
I didn't do that while doing the game
because you're going to be doing the game. They're going to come to you periodically and go, "Hey, Craig, what do you think about that strikeout?"
Well, it's the game's going to be about 8:20 puck drop.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? The Marlins have moved their game a half an hour earlier tonight.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Interesting move. Good move.
So
yeah.
6:10.
Oh,
so
wow.
The way the ball game's going.
You need Gibson versus Seaver.
It could be overish.
Yeah, a nice hour and 12-minute game.
Mark Burley, remember he was these quick games, but the games are going fast. So I mean, if you have a game unlike last night, which was a rare, 12-inning game, you might get done with the baseball at 8:30, 8:40 post-game show. It won't be too bad. Look, hey, we've waited long enough. If I have to wait
I think it's tonight.
Watch it,
Tonight's
no
tonight.
problem.
Right,
I like the Panthers tonight. I'm taking them 4-3.
All right, we had him 4-2. Lubie's got 3-2. So I'm going to be sweating out the empty netter to hit the over tonight.
Oh, yes.
How could he miss that? Unbelievable.
Oh, the empty netter kills you. When you need it, you never get it.
Yep.
Never. No. I mean, it hits the post. It hits the backboard. But
and then when you don't,
you never. And when you don't need it, boom, right in.
Footer.
Yeah, there it is. The goalie scores.
No
yeah.
way, and then all of a sudden, what? How did that go
it's like,
in the net?
when did Mike Vernon take the ice? Unbelievable. All right, Minnie, we love you, man. Thanks. That was great. And the people that cashed on the favorite here, we're very happy for him. Andy's going to be out several $100 because you did show up, and we always appreciate it, man. You're a great
3-1 odds. That's let me get in on this.
We had you minus 165 as a no-show. We figured Trump has a better chance of showing up for the Biden debate. I mean,
enjoy tonight, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right, great, thanks.
All right, we look forward to seeing you on the tube too. All right, Craig Minervini, ladies and gentlemen. All right, wow. I mean, great historical perspective there at the draft, the first draft.
Wow,
this is Sarny type of stuff, isn't it? Where you go to the draft and and hustle your way into selling some independent stringer type of coverage. Great stuff. Craig Minervini. All right, I think it's tonight, Lubie. I really do. I don't know why. I have sort of a calming level of confidence in that. So go ahead and bet your brains out on Edmonton. 6-0.
We'll see. Everyone feels that. I have no idea.
It's strange to think that this is going to happen. It just is. The Panthers winning and the South Florida team winning the Stanley fucking Cup, Lubie. That is amazing. All right, we're going to be out there, to their practice facility overlooking it or something today? Is that what's happening?
At the Panthers newly minted practice facility / restaurant to do Mike Mayo's lunchbox on the possible game clinching day.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Any of the team executives going to be out there?
I don't know. We're hoping to maybe Reno.
It'd be nice if Paul Maurice stopped by.
I don't know if we're counting on that. I know Mayo was trying to work his magic. Sorry, it's one of the crazy fucking Sarnia suggestions that we actually followed through on.
Yeah.
That actually
let's not make a habit of that. The man is going berserk.
Well, this leans cool over the rest of his. Like he wants us to have their taxi squad on. Their cases or their taxi squad.
How about some of the little kids that are in the Panther, a futures organization or whatever? Here's little Johnny Smith. It's like, what? What do you think of the tuna melt? I like it a lot.
Exactly.
This is the business we have chosen. All right. Thanks to Craig for stopping by on the program. That's always a pleasure. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'll see you at 1:00 out there from this place called the Federal, which I guess is overlooking. Is it overlooking the practice facility?
I think so.
I've
never been.
There used to be a ice rink that was out west somewhere that was very popular. It was one of the. It might have been one of 2 or 3 ice rinks that were in South Florida. And there was a restaurant attached to it. That was out by you, Libby, if you went ice skating at any time in your youth.
It was the Ice Den. It's literally down the street from where I used to live and a street over down the street from where I live now. It's like
had a decent restaurant. They used to do some promotions out there, and it was cool, man. I mean, you were right by the ice, by the plastic, and you watch guys, and they had a lot of youth hockey going on. Good stuff. All right. So has the sport grown to the point where we win a championship tonight? That'll be a lot of fun. We'll find out. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Well, we'll see you next time. For Mike Lubie, I'm Jeff DeForest. See you next time as we leave you know that.
The time. All right, let's go, Cats.
Shoot the puck. It's 9:25.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my